Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Nanika Edwards. For those who are following me, you would have known that about 2 weeks ago or so, I promised to share the results of a language experiment that I have been conducting, and that experiment is now complete, to some extent. So, uh, just to explain what the experiment was. Uh, about maybe 2 months ago, a month and a half to 2 months ago, I came across a video by an instructor, a language instructor um, who trains people in the US military to speak different languages. Yes, this teacher is actually multilingual. And in that particular video, he was explaining that you can learn a language in a matter of a month, like become conversant. And this is not this is a pretty ambitious goal, one that I've never really set for myself. I have over the course of several years set language goals for myself because there are a couple there are several different languages that I'm interested in learning, and I just was never able to really stick with the process. So anyways, I decided to take him up on his the implicit challenge in what he was proposing, and I decided to try it on myself. Now, what happened was, in my case, I was going to set aside a month and then see if I could learn actually two languages, Korean and Brazilian Portuguese, both of which I actually already knew to some extent, to a limited extent. Um, but I decided that I was going to test it out over a month. However, life happened, and what happened was my month was narrowed down to 2 weeks just because I got busy and distracted with different things. And then I decided, okay, well, I have a choice. I can either, and by the way, those 2 weeks, that month I had set apart were designated for the month of March. But then I decided, okay, I can either do 2 weeks in the month of March, or I can put this off to April and then do the experiment across April. But I decided, you know what, I don't really want to lose any time with this. So I said, let me be even more ambitious. I'm going to aim for two languages in a matter of 2 weeks and see if I can become conversant. So I felt it was doable because I'm bilingual, not bilingual, I'm multilingual. I speak several different languages, and I said, okay, it's got to be doable. Um, so, um, I speak Spanish, French, Mandarin Chinese, intermediate level German, and with respect to English, I speak two forms of English. I speak Standard English and English Creole. So I really felt that with my multilingual advantage, that it would have been completely possible for me to pick up at a conversant level two languages within 2 weeks if I really hunkered down, right? So, long story short, what happened in the end was my 2 weeks actually got compressed to 1 week because at the end of at the end of the month, at the end of March, I had 2 weeks. The first week of those 2 weeks, I planned on devoting to I planned on devoting to Brazilian Portuguese, and then the final week to Korean. That's how I planned on doing it. Initially, I was going to mix them. I was going to do both languages over the course of 2 weeks. And then I said, you know what? Let me not be overly ambitious. Let me narrow down each week to one language. But then something else happened. The week before I planned on diving into this experiment, my brother in law and one of my nephews, paid a visit, and they encouraged me to try Duolingo. Now, I'm not a big fan of Duolingo, or at least I wasn't at that point in time. I'm not so sure that I am right now, even, to be honest, but It proved to actually be a better experience than I had anticipated. But anyway, long story short, they encouraged me to try Duolingo and they eventually convinced me. So in the end, here's what happened. I decided to try Haitian Creole on Duolingo, Latin on Duolingo, and Brazilian Portuguese on my own using resources that are freely available online. And then, well, in the second week, life happened again. I kind of got thrown off course, and so Korean never happened. But I did, in the first week, focus on Brazilian Portuguese, um, Haitian Creole, and Latin. Those were my core language targets. So over the course of this week, I think I'm going to share these videos in the second week of April 2025. And today is I think today is the 2nd of April 2025. Let me make sure. I want to get the dates right here. Yes, today's the 2nd of April. I should remember that because yesterday my mom pulled a prank on me and said April Fool's Day and completely caught me off guard. So I should have remembered that, right? But anyway, yes, I'm just explaining what the language experiment is. And I should explain why I'm doing this experiment in general terms. And then for when I focus in on each language across this week, I'm going to explain why I'd like to learn each of these languages, okay? But generally speaking, one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons I decided to do this experiment, one of the main reasons I'd like to learn other languages is because I just want to test my limits, you know? People may say, but Nika, you speak several languages already. Why learn more? It's really because I just like to test my limits. I believe in living life to the max. And for me, living life to the max means seeing what can I do with what God has invested in me, you know? There is a parable in the Gospels where Jesus tells the story of a master who gifts, if I could put it like that. I don't think gift is really a word, but who gifts, but I think it is now. He gifts 3 servants with different amounts, different quantities, different amounts of talents. And then he goes on a journey, comes back to see what his servants had done with their talents. 2 of them increased their talents, right? They completely maximized their talents, they doubled them. And then 1 servant was a lazy servant who did nothing with the resources that his master had given to him. One of the things that talents in that story can represent would be literal talents, literal gifting. So for me, part of this experiment is I just want to see what I can do with what God has given to me. I mean, up to a certain point, I am really satisfied with the languages that I already speak. I'm perfectly happy. Me siento muy satisfecha con el nivel de comunicación que puedo maestrar dentro de cada idioma que ya hablo. Right? So that was Spanish. And I was saying I'm already satisfied with the level of competency that I have within each of these languages. But still, you know, life is short. Life is short. And for me, living life to the max is just maximizing my human potential within God, because I walk with God. I know God. God is my friend. I talk to God every day. I just want to see how I can maximize my potential. One, out of curiosity to see how far can I go within the boundaries within which God has placed me, because God places us all within certain boundaries. And then also I believe that God has given me a special mind. I do believe that I am gifted, and God has gifted me intellectually, and therefore I almost feel like my brain My mind is a toy, and I just want to see. It's almost like a child kind of taking a toy and shaking it and saying, "Let's see what this toy can do." That's how I feel about my brain, about my mind, I just think to myself, what can my mind do? What is it capable of if I stretch it to its outermost limits of possibility? Or of possibilities. So that's really why I'm conducting this experiment. Plus, I just think that there are secondary reasons as well, but that's the main one, at least right now. But secondary reasons would include, I'm not getting any younger, and I believe that it's useful to engage my mind in activities that will optimize the flexibility of my neurological flexibility. What do you call that? It's neuroplasticity, the neuroplasticity of my brain, to keep my brain plastic, to keep my brain supple, agile. Excuse me. And learning a language is a great way to do that. And apparently, I was reading online recently, and I'm going to assume that they were telling the truth, but you can fact check. I encourage you to fact check. But what I read was that learning another language literally increases the size of your brain. And so I figure the more the merrier, why not? So that's another reason why I'd like to learn these languages. And then also, I believe that at some point later in life, I believe I'm going to be traveling again. There was a season of my life where I traveled a lot, and I've been in a pretty sedentary season for a good chunk of time now. But I believe that a time is coming when I'm going to be traveling again. And so, the more languages I know, I think the better it would be for me and the people that I would eventually be interacting with, because I tell you, when you can speak other people's languages, you can connect with people heart to heart and soul to soul. So the more languages, the merrier. And also, strategically speaking, I'd really like to pick up languages that are really becoming important languages, generally speaking, either in world affairs or in terms of the number of people who speak these languages. And finally, I have a particular interest in languages that you can connect back to the ancient past. Having done Chinese and seeing what a world of education it's opened up to me beyond the actual speaking of the language itself, like through the script and so on, and the historical, cultural, philosophical richness and wealth that is encoded into the script. I thought, okay, other ancient languages will probably proffer the same kinds of benefits. So those are some of the reasons, and then maybe some that I've forgotten about. But these are the reasons why I would like to learn other languages. The more the merrier, but also the faster the better, right? The more ground I can cover faster, the better. So this week, today, I'm just sharing my general intro. On between Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to share what my experience has been in terms of trying to learn Latin, Haitian Creole, and Brazilian Portuguese within the space of a month. And then at the end of the week on Friday, I plan on sharing my final overall thoughts. So that is it. I hope that you are anticipating with great excitement my findings and the conclusions that I've come to. And I hope I'm not okay getting moisture all over my screen here. But the conclusions that I've come to, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. And well, that's it. Do have a lovely day, and I'll see you again throughout the rest. And I'll see you again throughout the rest of the week.